Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and I'm glad that you're here with us this morning. Today we have a slightly different service. Today we are reliving and remembering some of our favorite musical performances and readings by our members over the last couple of years. I've also re-recorded the sermon Who Is We from the fall of 2018 and included that for you as well today. And Meredith has prepared a new story for all ages. I hope you enjoy the service.
On this voyage of the soul, may we be bridge builders, our common ground visible beneath the surface differences. May we braid the threads of reconciliation into a chain of possibility that joins, heals, and includes what once seemed separate. May our shared prayer be answered, to grow so open that there is not them or us, only the one, moving always into love.
We are a living Flash and Gleam, Lights in Our World, by Suf Lice, illustrated by Koa Lee. Lights rise, open eyes. Reach low, nurture, grow. Bolt flash, thunder crash. Color, bend, find the end. Glimmer, glow, wish, and blow. Blast, beam, let us dream. Fade away, cannot stay. Swirl, flow, come and go. Flicker, feel, help us heal. Float, guide, far and wide. Blink, play, show the way. Shimmer, glance, blaze and dance. Soar, wait, celebrate. Spark, fly, fill the sky. Burst, create, illuminate. Bless, shine, in a line. Dazzle, thrill, spread goodwill. Gleam bright, say good night. My wonder question for you today is this: what role do lights play in your celebration of this season? Share with a family member or friend this week, or at coffee hour after the service.
As we move through life, finding ourselves always newly wise and newly foolish, we ask that our mistakes be small and not hurtful. We ask that as we gain experience, we do not forget our innocence, for they are both part of the whole.
Let us enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Feel the earth beneath your feet as it supports you. Feel the love of this community as it surrounds and enfolds you. Feel your breath as it flows in and out of your body. Listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your heart. Take another breath and hold it. The air you hold in your body is the most precious thing in the world, for your very life depends on it. And yet none of us can hold on to it for more than a moment, or else we would strangle and die. What is most precious to us must be released, so that we may live and live fully. Look into your heart, find what is there and hold it. The love you hold within your heart is the most precious thing in the world. And yet no one can hold on to it more than your heart can withhold its blood, or else we would die from loneliness and misery. What is most precious to us must be shared so that we may love and love fully. Look into your life, at those things that are most precious to you. Look again, you will find that their value lies not in being held, but in being shared. life, love, laughter, longing. May we share these precious gifts that they may return to us, multiplied beyond measure. As part of the search process over the last 2 years, you participated in focus groups, completed surveys, and had multiple discussions about your hopes and dreams for the future of this congregation. One of the things that came up multiple times was the desire to be more diverse and to have more people of color attend the church. Many of you wanted to be more involved with the Avondale community and see more members of that community become part of this church. Since I've been here, I've been meeting with individuals and committees, and the desire to have more people of color in the congregation almost always makes its way into the conversation. I hear you. And I'll remind you that you're not the only UU congregation saying this. It's a fairly common wish among our congregations, especially those in urban areas. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Unitarian Universalism has a reputation for not being particularly diverse. As part of the process of becoming a minister, I was required to undergo 2 days of psychological testing at a center near Princeton. They completed a Myers-Briggs assessment and asked me questions about my family, my career, my hopes, my dreams, my plans for ministry, etc. I had to write essays and collect numerous recommendations from all kinds of people. The idea was to test my temperament, to see if I have the emotional and social aptitude to be a minister. The psychiatrist examiner at Princeton had a reputation for being particularly difficult and harsh. I didn't have that experience with her and thought I fielded all her questions calmly, except one. I was completely taken aback when she asked why I wanted to be part of a pale and dying denomination. And she was a late middle-aged white woman asking me this question. I just sat there, stunned for a minute by her bluntness, before explaining that I am a Unitarian Universalist because of the theology. Her question hit me hard. No one had ever asked me that before. Since then, I've been asked that question several times by many different people, and my answer is still the same. I'm a UU because of the theology. Still, that Princeton psychiatrist and all the others who ask about our demographics, they do have a point. And it's borne out in the statistics. Like other denominations, our membership numbers are dropping. They look like this. We hit our peak membership in 1968 with 177,431 members nationwide. Then we dipped down to 135,000 in the 80s before bouncing back to just over 164,000 in 2008. After that, our overall membership dropped for 9 straight years before seeing a slight uptick this year. But these changes aren't happening everywhere. A UUA study done a few years ago showed 15 states with a net loss in UU congregational membership. Ohio was one of those states. Those losses in membership were balanced out by population and membership growth in southern and western states. Many of our congregations, particularly those in the Northeast, are aging. The median age of a UU is 52. Compared with 44 in the general population. Older members are passing away, and our traditional congregations, those who continue to do the same things the same way, are not attracting enough new members to offset that loss. Newcomers are interested in Unitarian Universalism, but not the same old Unitarian Universalism. They're not necessarily interested in joining a church. They're looking for new ways to express spirituality and opportunities to make justice and build community in new ways, and to do it with a variety of people. They're looking for places that utilize technology and take advantage of new strategies for organizing and collaborating and building bridges among and between different groups of people. I believe in my heart that Unitarian Universalism can speak to more people, that it has something to offer, a message of spirituality, community, and justice building. I understand how someone could view Unitarian Universalism as a pale and dying denomination, or as someone at General Assembly said this summer, a sea of white and gray. But I think that assessment is unfair, untrue, and unkind. It's unfair to the denomination itself and the work it's doing to make change in environmentalism, immigration, anti-racism, and other areas. It's untrue because it ignores the existence of the black and brown people who have been part of this denomination and Unitarianism and Universalism before that since their earliest days. Freed from enslavement, Gloucester Dalton, a black man, was one of the 85 signers of the charter of the Gloucester, Massachusetts Universalist Society, the first Universalist church organized in America. Amy Scott, a black woman, was one of the incorporators of a Unitarian church in 1802. And that statement is unkind because it dismisses the people who have dedicated their lives to this denomination, who have worked hard and long for what they believe to be right and just, and continue to do so long after they've earned the right to retire. They keep working because there's still work to be done. I honor, respect, and love them for that. And yet, our congregations aren't especially diverse. It's a big deal across the nation that a black woman was called to be the minister in this church. It's not a secret that this denomination still struggles with racism, classism, ableism, and transphobia. It's complicated, and I want you to know that I understand your confusion and uncertainty about how to go forward. I really do. Sometimes it's confusing to me too, but I know in my heart we can make it better. That's what keeps me going. I know that with laughter, respect, compassion, and love, all those things we gathered here last week, we can change this world, our city, our community, and ourselves. Every moment we get another chance to start again. Let's take that chance. Let's start with this quest for diversity. I promised you during candidating week in April that I would always be honest with you. And spoiler alert, here comes one of those times. I've had the honor of speaking and doing pulpit supply in many UU congregations. When I hear someone in a congregation lamenting a lack of diversity and asking how to attract people of color because we're so white, I have to take a step back and say, who is we? Who is we indeed? Sure, there's a prominent demographic in our congregations. Politically liberal, college-educated, above-average income, and white. In 2008, the last year for which comprehensive numbers are available, the U.S. population was 65.6% white. But our congregations were 89% white. We have higher percentages of home ownership than the general population as well. Here's where we got into trouble. Not everybody fits into the we. We is such a little word, but it can be a dangerous one. And I know that last week during water communion, someone promised to bring danger to this community this year. But please don't let it be here. We aren't all anything. We're all white. I don't fit that we, and I'm certainly here. And what about Gloucester Dalton and Amy Scott? Blacks make up 12.2% of the population, but only 1% of our congregations. It's a small number, but it's not zero. So no, we aren't all white. Here's another one. We are all liberals, all Democrats. None of us voted for Trump. That's not true. I know many UUs who consider themselves conservatives, who are Republicans, who voted for Donald Trump. I'll tell you a story. In December 2016, I attended a small Christmas party with a group of UUs who loved one another like family. We were having a great time until someone started off on a political rant disparaging Trump voters, and in response, another person in our small group said that they'd voted for Trump. It was as if the air had been sucked out of the room. I watched the relationship between these two people who had loved one another like siblings suddenly change. and I don't know if it ever completely recovered. Here's another one. We are all humanists. Not true. Someone called the office earlier this month and expressed interest in coming to First Church, but she wanted to make sure it would be safe for her, that she would be welcome as a Christian UU. Got to tell you, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Christian UUs in this country. These are just a few examples. My point is that we aren't all anything. There is diversity in this congregation. Maybe not as much ethnic or class diversity as you'd like, but there is diversity. People have different identities and experience the world and its system of privilege, favor, and oppression in different ways. Let's learn to see our multiple identities, not as stereotypes or caricatures, but in all our gloriously complex layers. If we can see that in ourselves, if we can be comfortable with it and understand how it affects us, then perhaps we will be open to seeing and understanding different identities and experiences in others, and ultimately creating the beloved community of our dreams. Our denomination, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, has dedicated itself to becoming more diverse and inclusive, and to dismantling systems of supremacy and suppression wherever they exist. At General Assembly earlier this year, delegates voted to adopt Undoing Intersectional White Supremacy as the 2018 to 2022 Congregational Study Action Issue for the denomination. For those of you who are unfamiliar with CSAIs, they are issues selected by UU member congregations for 4 years of study, reflection, and action. They can lead to the creation of a statement of conscience that will be voted on by delegates at General Assembly in the 3rd year. The 4th year is dedicated to implementation of the plan. This year, the delegates adopted the following issue statement. Racism is fundamental to U.S. social systems. White supremacy culture operates economically, institutionally, politically, and culturally, shaping everyone's chances to live healthy, fulfilling lives. It is also the nation's most toxic export, shaping policies and practices that do profound harm to the earth and all living things. White supremacy operates intersectionally, beyond black and white, and interwoven with other forms of oppression. It is multiracial and intersects with issues of class and income, gender, age, ethnicity, immigration status, sexual orientation, religion, ability, and more. During this study period, the association will consider how people are socialized into various overlapping supremacy systems, how different racial and economic strategies get applied to different racial groups, and how we as UUs can build transformative relationships of trust and accountability across state lines. The specific actions to be taken haven't been finalized yet, but so far include: 1, providing ongoing training and education in anti-racism and anti-oppression on a multi- and intergenerational basis to all who wish to deepen their understanding of the impacts of white supremacy. 2, building local relationships with people of color and other oppressed people, inside and outside our congregations, so that agendas and strategies for social justice efforts respond to the real vulnerabilities they face. And 3, mobilizing UUs to participate in community organizing that is guided by accountable partnerships. If we hope to become more diverse and inclusive, We must consider an intersectional approach to our anti-racism, anti-oppression efforts. We must consider an intersectional approach to eliminating the supremacy culture that exists in our country and in our congregations today. We're going to spend much time this year talking about anti-racism, anti-oppression work, and about white supremacy culture. But for now, let's just look at that term, intersectionality. It's not a new concept, but the term has only been around for the last 30 years or so. It comes from feminism. As a movement, feminism has been described as dedicated to dismantling patriarchy and ending male dominance and violence against women. But by the 1960s, there was a recognition that not all women were treated the same. For example, black women were not treated the same as white women. In 1989, scholar Kimberly Crenshaw gave a name to the framework that explores the dynamics between coexisting identities, in this case, being a woman and being black, and the connected systems of oppression such as patriarchy and white supremacy. She called it intersectionality. Looking through a lens of intersectionality, one can see that not all women experience oppression the same way. Blogger Claire, exploring the works of Crenshaw, Bell Hooks, and Audre Lorde, says it this way: a black woman and a white woman will both experience womanhood differently, owing to the vector of race. One is not more woman than the other. She says, treating white womanhood as a definitive standard erases black womanhood and propagates racism within the feminist movement. As an association, we have committed to viewing our anti-oppression work through an intersectional lens, to seeing how our different identities and socio-cultural location influences how we move and how we are perceived in our congregations and in our societies. As a congregation, doing this work will help us in our efforts to become more diverse, more inclusive, and more authentically connected to our Avondale neighbors and others outside these walls. I know that this congregation prides itself on its commitment to justice and equality, and I hope that we will choose to be involved in this difficult, important, and necessary work. And we'll talk more about that in the coming months. For now, let's start with seeing our own identities. Let's start with recognizing that each of us has multiple identities. I have many: human, African American, woman, cisgendered, heterosexual, lawyer, musician, baby boomer, able-bodied person, and minister. Based on my various identities, I suffer multiple oppressions as a woman, as a black woman, and intersectionally as a black person who is a woman. I'm aware that some of my identities confer privileges. My multiple degrees give me educational privilege. In a society that oppresses those with mobility issues, my able body confers privilege on me. Yes, with my multiple identities come multiple oppressions and multiple privileges. And so it is with yours. Your identities give you privileges and subject you to oppression. The challenge is to do the work that's necessary to eliminate privilege and oppression altogether. Which brings us back to that little word, we. I know it's convenient and grammatically unavoidable. I know we usually don't intend any harm by it. Still, let's be careful how we use it. Are we using it to make assumptions about people and whether they really belong in our we, whether they're one of us, whatever that means? Are we using it in a way that dismisses people, rendering them invisible, causing them harm, and perpetuating oppression? Has our concept of who we are caused us to miss opportunities to grow? Have people come to visit and heard us talk about who we are and been turned off, never to return again? Or worse yet, has someone left here feeling hurt because they were convinced there wasn't room for them, room for their particular identity in our community? Did they feel they couldn't be part of this we? Belonging is one of our basic human needs. Everyone wants and needs to see themselves as part of something larger than them. Everyone wants and needs to find that place where they can connect with others and do good in their community and in the world. I'm convinced that Unitarian Universalism can be that place, and that this congregation can be a leader in showing others what that looks like. You're already doing good work, and we can be an even more open, welcoming, and inclusive spiritual home and justice-making base for people of many identities. So come, whoever you are. There's a place for you in this faith and in this congregation. There's plenty of room for everyone at our table. There's plenty of room in our we.
All the competition, where fact and fiction meet.
There's no color lines, casts, or classes. There's no fool in the masses. Whatever faith you practice, whatever you
away your misconceptions. There's no walls around heaven. There's no code you gotta know to get in. No Minutemen or border patrol.
You've gotta lose your earthly possessions. Leave behind your weapons. You can't buy your salvation, and there is no pot of gold. Oh, heaven, heaven, what the hell is heaven? Is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless?
Heaven ain't got no prisons, no government, no business,
No banks or politicians, no armies and no police. Castles and cathedrals crumble,
pyramids and pipelines tumble. The failure keeps you humble and leads us closer to peace. Oh, heaven, heaven, what the hell is heaven? Is there a home for the homeless? Is there hope for the hopeless?